Good morning or good afternoon. This is Justin Sears and I run product marketing at Lucidworks. I want to thank you all for joining today's webinar on how personalization beats segmentation to create the next best experience. It's my pleasure today to be co-presenting with Brandon Purcell, Principal Analyst at Forrester. Before Brandon introduces himself and sets the stage for today's conversation, please do help us make this conversational. As Brandon and I are chatting, please send us questions using the Q&A tool on the On24 platform. That's at the bottom left of your screen. We'll make sure to leave some time at the end to answer those questions. And now let's get started. Good afternoon, Brandon. Please introduce yourself and get us started by sharing your perspective on personalization.
Great, thanks, Justin, and thanks to you and the Lucidworks team for having me and to everybody who's attending today. I'm really excited to talk to you about personalization today. I am a principal analyst at Forrester Research, and I sit on our customer insights team. So I help companies take their massive amounts of data and distill that data into insights to help them win, serve, and retain customers. If there's one thing that is different that has happened in the last 10 years or so from previous history of business, is that we are firmly in the age of the customer. And by this, I mean that increasingly empowered customers have been able to disrupt entire industries.
Here's a quick look into how Fusion personalizes digital commerce experiences.
The transportation industry, or you think
the demo
about
uses actual
Airbnb
product data
and the
from one of our
hospitality
customers,
industry,
an outdoor
or
apparel
Facebook
retailer
and
named
democracy as we
Cool.com.
know it.
I'm going to show how Fusion can help me find my son the ideal birthday present that matches his interest in hiking and fly fishing. His birthday is July 1st, and he wears mostly shorts.
The good news is that they're giving us a lot of breadcrumbs.
I've already done some searching and browsing for his birthday present, so the homepage is showing me personalized banners for lifestyle content related to fly fishing. Lucidworks Fusion has captured signals from all previous cool shoppers, and it uses those accumulated signals to help me find the right product.
Connected PCs, and we had
I begin to type in shorts, and I'm only 3 letters into my query, SHO, before Fusion Machine Learning begins to guide my product discovery experience.
Increase in the amount of data we
Fusion
have,
suggests relevant spellings,
social media
suggestions,
data,
and prior queries in search history.
Mobile data,
all of these suggestions are based on rules or NLP recommendations.
The customer insights
click on the suggestion
who
shorts.
I write my research for.
You can see from these results that the cool website cannot personalize to me very well yet.
That are useful to win, serve, and retain these increasingly empowered
customers. It is showing a variety of products in different colors and some styles for women. And earlier, rules-driven time, facets of e-commerce shoppers communicate more precise intent in a structured way.
Now, in theory,
Fusion offers that too, but machine learning does the heavy lifting that saves the shopper from spending too much time
transact with us, and that creates a data footprint.
Instead, I'm going to run a more explicit search and show you how Fusion uses that information to give the shopper both query input flexibility and personalization. I searched for men's blue shorts.
We can actually win, serve, and retain customers. And finally, this insights life cycle is in fact a cycle, because we need to learn from the efficacy
now my
of those
facet
actions.
choices have become more precise because Fusion used NLP to predict my intent.
Did he or did he not
Department
stay
and
with
gender
us?
facets
That's
default to men, and the color facet defaults to blue.
Model. Now, unfortunately,
the search results have been personalized using the ML concept of named entity recognition, or NER. Fusion has learned through thousands or millions of signals that men's is a gender, blue is a color, and shorts is a product category. When I expand the search results enhanced by Fusion ML, I can see the factors that determine relevance for that particular query. When I expand Fusion ML suggestions, I can see the ML is effectively asking me 2 questions and then making items for item recommendations based on how I answer.
And there are 2 key facets to this definition. The first piece is
some prefer styles more appropriate for fishing and hiking, so I choose those facets.
And you can see on the right here there are AI technologies.
Now watch how Fusion maintains personalization as my product discovery continues.
There are multiple different
when I search for shirts, I'm jumping to a different product category, but Fusion remembers my preferences. Cool shows me blue men's shirts appropriate for fishing and hiking.
So that's one piece, mimicking some human
Now I'm going to
faculty.
search for shorts again. Compare the results of this search for shorts to the one I did just minutes ago.
Machine learning.
The results are far more personal.
Most AI today is using machine learning at its core to learn from data the best way to optimize problems.
These riptide shorts look good.
Now, if this
I click on them and go to the
graphic
product
looks a
detail
bit
page.
familiar, it's because it actually
In
mirrors
just
that
a few
insights
minutes,
life
Fusion
cycle
has
I
learned
just
about my
introduced to
preferences
you, right?
and can make personalized
Sensing the
recommendations,
world around
but
us.
not
I mean,
because the
that
merchandiser
is
is hard-coded
data. One
or
of the
ruled.
beauties of AI is
Notice that
that
the
it makes
products
data just
featured in
data.
the item
Unstructured data is
recommendations
now
section
data.
of the
Structured
page
data is always
apply generally
data.
to my preferences based on the
We
signals
think
I've
about
sent.
that data to
But
create
here we're seeing an
insights,
example of
and then, of course, we
unsupervised
take
machine
action.
learning based on
So
a
the
black
promise
box
of AI and
calculation.
the reason
These are
that I
products
believe
most
it's so
likely
hyped
for
in
me
the
to add to
market
my
is
cart when
because
I'm on the Riptide
it
Shorts product
could very
detail
well
page.
automate
That's why
and
these products
optimize
aren't always
its
blue
insights
and aren't
lifecycle
always
so
shorts.
that you're continually learning and getting
Just
better
below
and
that,
better
I
at
can see
retaining
item
customers,
recommendations with blue
increasing
color
lifetime
boost.
value,
These are much
selling
more
more to
explicitly
customers.
tied to the preferences that I've just
In the
shown.
world of customer analytics that I cover at Forrester,
Here at
I
the
like
bottom
to
of the
talk
page, you
about
see the
how
query
customer
history
analytics
and click
in theory
history
should get
metrics.
the right message
Both
to
of
the
these
right
components
customer at the
help
right
Pool
time.
evaluate and
But the
tune
truth
relevance,
is
giving their
that
team the ability
until
to assess the
recently,
precision and
customer
recall
analytics
of
is really
results
focused on that
and
right
adjust
customer
configuration
piece,
to
maybe the right
optimize.
time piece,
Because
but the
Fusion
right
can incorporate
message, the right
geolocation
experience
signals as well,
has
we
been
can boost
lacking.
products that are
And
most
AI
relevant to a
can
shopper's
help us
exact
to
location.
identify,
For example, if Pool
curate,
can see
and
where shoppers
deliver
for Riptide
that
Shorts
right
tend to live,
message or
they
right
can use that
experience.
information to inform
So what are companies
their
doing
supply
today
chain or in-store
to
promotions
try
to move more product and to
satisfy
prevent stockouts?
the demands of these
Now I
increasingly
search for
empowered
white
customers?
shorts.
Well, most companies are
And it
using
so happens that Pool
segmentation.
does not sell white
Segmentation has been
shorts.
around forever.
This is
I
another
receive
way
more
to use
inquiries at
items for
Forrester
item recommendations.
about segmentation
Since
than
Fusion
anything
understands
else,
that white
more
is
than
a
AI,
color
more
and
than any
shorts
sort of
is a product
predictive
category,
analytics.
it can suggest different
Our
color
clients are
category
interested in
combinations as
segmentation,
alternatives to
and
white
it's
shorts.
too bad.
Eventually,
because
Fusion will
it's the
learn
best
what
of times for
products shoppers
personalization,
consider to
especially
be
given
popular
all of the
substitutes for white
advances
shorts.
in AI and all of the data we have, and the worst of times
Pool
for
offers
segmentation.
a line of shorts
And I
named
realize that's a
Revolver,
somewhat
spelled
provocative statement, so let me tell you why that is.
R-E-V-O-L-V-R.
Look at
When I
all of
search
these
for
different
Revolver
millennials. We have
with the
12
correct
different
English
millennials
spelling, Fusion
here.
knows what I'm looking for.
Demographic,
The site doesn't show me
demographic
null results,
segmentation
nor does it
would
ask me to
treat all
retype
of these
anything.
people the
This is
same
based
way.
on a pattern
Now, do
noticed
these
by the
people look
ML and
similar? Would you
subsequently
try
converted
to
into
sell
a rule
Aziz
by the
Ansari the
merchandiser.
same
I'll show
pantsuit
how this
as
works when I
Olivia
show you the
Pope or
backend
Kerry
interface.
Washington? I hope not. This is probably not
Fusion
going to
also
go over
detects
very
synonyms using the same head-tail
No,
approach
we
that
can't
it
treat
uses
these
for
people as
misspellings.
one static,
If I search for
monolithic
luggage, the closest
demographic
items
segment.
available in the
Instead,
catalog are
we have
bags.
to use all of the
Fusion
data that
automatically
we're collecting
replaces
on
luggage
them,
with
the
bags
behavioral
before
data,
it
the
runs the query.
transactional data, to better understand their wants
Here's the
and
synonym
needs
detection
and
rule.
respond to them. So how do I differ segmentation from, or how does segmentation differ
I've shown many
from
examples of how Fusion
personalization?
uses
Well,
machine
there are a few
learning to
different
evaluate
ways to
and
think
tune
about
relevance
this. One
by
is
building a knowledge
thinking
graph
about
and
what
using that graph
your
to
intent
understand
is
queries
as
and
a
predict
business
intent.
using these methodologies.
This automatic
With
approach is
segmentation,
usually better
the
than
intent
relying
is
on
traditional
static
intent to
if-then
drive
rules.
desirable actions
It
or
scales
behaviors.
far better and is more
With
flexible as words and
personalization,
language
you're thinking
patterns
more
change.
broadly about
It also
actually
saves merchandising
improving the
teams
customer
lots of time in the
experience. You're thinking
boredom of
about
maintaining
what
the
your
relevance
customers
of
want
their
and
website
expect from you
search
and how you
results.
meet those needs.
But a strictly automatic approach
And
is
so
not
your
always
outcomes
best.
actually change. Instead
Sometimes
of looking
rules
at
engines
traditional
should
metrics like
override
a
what
higher
ML might
response or
prescribe.
conversion rate,
This is particularly
increased
true
retention or
at the
sales.
long end of the tail,
Instead,
where ML
you're
may not
also
get enough
looking
signals
at
to make the best
customer-focused
recommendations.
metrics, like increased customer
It's also true
satisfaction
for
or CSAT.
unanticipated
So you're
moments in
looking at
time that
reduced
require a
effort
quick human
scores.
response,
And
such as a
you'll see in
competitor's
second, lifetime value
announcement,
becomes
when
a
the ML
very
models
key,
do not have time to
metric
train
in all of this.
themselves.
And finally,
With these shopper
the movement from
examples, I've shown
segmentation
how
to
Lucidworks Fusion
personalization also
personalized an
impacts
e-commerce experience. In
different parts
September
of the experience. So
2019,
instead
we
of
released
just looking
Predictive
at
Merchandiser,
traditional
an add-on
campaigns,
to Fusion that
offers,
makes it
and
far
recommendations
easier
and
for
messages,
teams managing
you're
e-commerce
actually going to
websites
use
to
personalization
predict
to
shopper
impact
intent and match
functionality,
that intent with
and
products
you're going
and
to
content.
surface different content
Here's
for
the
different
Predictive
types of
Merchandiser.
customers and
I'll show
interact
how
with
the
them
cool
in different
merchandising
ways.
team can use
Justin,
this
I know
low-code
Lucidworks
interface
has
to complete
an
4 tasks:
interesting point
boost
of view here.
product,
I'd
block
love to hear a
product,
little bit from
bury
you
product,
about
or pin
the
product.
Lucidworks perspective.
I'll also show how the rules thanks, engine
Brandon.
works.
And
I
was
just
this
is a great way to
slide
Predictive Merchandisers ease of use for the business
break it
experts
down.
who
I was
can manage the
not
nodding my head here because one of our biggest customers sells a lot of yoga pants online, and they had a big sale in July with record-breaking revenue. Because they're able to offer a personalized experience
I see the same named entity
to their
recognition
shoppers
working
with
here.
Fusion,
Fusion has identified shorts as a product type.
the next best
This is an
experience
example of data
in their shopping experience.
Extracted from the
And there are a couple other examples that also line up really well with this. Is a prominent discount retailer
the revolver
was using
product.
Understands very well the difference between personalization and segmentation, and their team was really focusing on how they could get the most out of personalization. And when they turned on signals in Fusion, which I'll talk about in a little bit, they saw their conversion rate double
I'd like to block
over
the
what they were
vortex
seeing
short
before because they were bringing in that AI piece that you alluded to before. And they didn't have it and before they turned that on.
They disappear.
And then the last example that really lines up well in the digital commerce space is a major online bookseller, and we were talking to them before they purchased Fusion. They split the traffic between their status quo tool and Fusion, and they intended to run a test for a few months before the holiday season. After watching the results for 2 weeks, they said forget about it and shifted all of their traffic to Fusion because they were seeing about a 12-point improvement in conversion just because they were adding that personalization, that level of intelligence.
Here it is.
Using AI spread across all those experiences.
I can see all the rules that I've just created through the UI, but I haven't published.
That's great, Justin. Thanks for those examples, especially the yoga pants one. I'm not surprised that they experienced
these rules won't affect the site behavior until I click publish.
My hope is
I'll click undo all so I don't mess up anyone else's demo.
Semblance of normal,
everything goes back to how it was before.
During the work week. That would be great. I'm very comfortable.
Hear, hear.
So, from an analytics perspective, segmentation is one way to skin this cat, but there are a number of analytical techniques that you can apply to your customer data to better personalize experiences. This is kind of the cornerstone of my customer analytics research at Forrester. I'm not going to go into every single one of these techniques, but I would like to just tell you the way to read this pinwheel diagram is in the outer circle in green, we have the different applications of customer analytics. And so there are analytical techniques that help you identify customer context to improve your marketing to them. Moving clockwise, there are those that help you acquire customers. Every business is interested in growing its customer base. At 6 o'clock on the diagram, you'll see techniques that align with retention and building loyalty. Moving along, there are techniques that are fully focused on personalization, what we're talking about today, although arguably all of these techniques can be used to deliver personalized experiences. And speaking of experiences, customer experience is another application area for customer analytics, identifying pain points in the experience, improving the experience, differentiating through experience. So those are the application areas. And then in blue, we have the different techniques that align generally to those application areas. For instance, just if you go right down to 6 o'clock, you'll see customer churn and attrition analysis. That's kind of the canonical customer analytics technique where you have data on customers who've historically churned and not churned. You feed them into a supervised learning model, and it can detect patterns amongst customers who've churned that differentiate them from non-churners so that you can score your entire customer base based on their likelihood to churn. Now, even in the best of times, not all of these techniques are created equal, meaning some of them are going to be more valuable for some industries or use cases than others. But we did just see a very rapid shift in the prioritization of these techniques due to the pandemic and how it impacted customer behavior. What happened was, and you've all experienced this firsthand, people stopped leaving their homes, right? And certainly weren't going into brick and mortar locations, and were increasingly interacting solely digitally. Because of this, companies had to reinvest in descriptive techniques like customer journey analytics, which is there at 11 o'clock, to understand the new volume of customers on digital journeys, what those digital journeys were, the different touch points within them, and whether the journeys were actually working or not. So what were the KPIs at the end of the digital journeys? Did some digital journeys result in higher conversion rates than others or higher drop-off rates than others? Well, that gives you a sense of what you may need to fix or double down on. At the same time, companies that were analytically advanced and had predictive models in place experienced what's known in data science as data drift. Because all of a sudden customers' behavior shifted so drastically, the past no longer reflected the present. And so those predictive models were far less accurate than they were in the past. And so companies now, even in the best of times or today, companies are going to be using many of these models in tandem. And they need a way to orchestrate, all right, what experiences should we deliver based upon the insights that we're deriving from these models? And that orchestration layer is something I like to call the next best experience. And Justin mentioned the next best experience before. I think of it as the holy grail of a customer analytics, a mature customer analytics practice. And it obviously builds on the next best quote unquote trilogy that preceded it: next best product, next best offer, next best action. But it's a bit different. And I use the term experience intentionally because it encompasses not just the marketing experience, but we can actually apply the next best experience across, could be marketing, but also customer experience, customer service, a product experience, or some other operational area. So the lens is much broader than just marketing. And also the execution mindset is that personalization execution mindset we talked about before. It's not inside out, what do we want to get from the customer, but we're actually striving to identify what the customer is trying to achieve with us. We still want to be profitable. And so we need to look at the long-term profitability of individual customers as opposed to short-term conversions or clicks. And therefore, as I mentioned before, customer lifetime value, being a measure of that future profitability of each customer, is the metric that we'll want to optimize in this next best experience model. Of course, again, this should be aspirational for you as you're building out your practice. You can build each of the individual models that will eventually enable you to create this next best experience orchestration. I'm going to turn it over to Justin to talk a little bit about the Lucidworks approach.
Thanks, Brandon. When I read your research and came across your concept of next best experience, I said, that's what we do at Lucidworks. And I also like the slide you just showed that it is a journey. So we have customers that are at the first step of that journey and are just thinking about how they might create that experience, and they're getting used to using machine learning and applying that to the experience. And then we have customers that are stage 3 or stage 4 of that journey that you just outlined and are doing some really advanced things. We offer the next best experiences to our clients so they can provide that to their customers or their employees through 2 types of solution, the digital commerce solutions for shoppers and digital workplace solutions for employees. And you just referred to the best of times and the worst of times, which of course comes from the Dickens classic, A Tale of Two Cities. My grandfather was a big fan, so that book was oft quoted when I was a kid. And here's a quote from your paper that summed up really well what we strive to offer with our platform, Lucidworks Fusion. Personalization, delivering the right experience to the right customer at the right time, is not easy, but is de rigueur for companies that wish to thrive in the age of the customer. The next best experience that you described in that research is proof to the consumer of how well a company can personalize for them. And of course, I mentioned digital workplace. At Lucidworks, we're on a mission to bring that same level of best-of-breed consumer personalization to the workplace so we can experience that as we work. And some people may be wealthy enough to spend most of their time shopping rather than working, but for most of us, the opposite's true. And work can be a lot better, a lot more satisfying if we get to use the tools that augment our human intelligence and give us more time doing and less time finding the information we need. So this statement really sums up the challenge of personalizing for employees to offer them the next best experience at work, just like you might offer that next best experience to a consumer on an e-commerce website. Organizations possess lots of data, siloed inside disconnected applications, and unavailable to employees at their moments of need. So, Brandon, we're really seeing a theme here. It's that moment. The moments change from instant to instant, and AI really allows the system to be aware at some level of what type of moment the user finds him or herself in. And at Lucidworks, we know how challenging it can be to personalize that moment of finding because we began working on it 12 years ago. We began with a deep understanding of search and Apache Solr, the open source project for distributed search on big data. And we wrote code to ingest data generated by systems, humans, and applications. You see that on the left side of this slide. We've developed advanced functionality for indexing, clustering, classification, faceting, filtering, relevancy, ranking, analytics, all of those different steps in the middle. And we've bundled it all into the digital commerce and digital workplace solutions available with Lucidworks Fusion. Now, because we've done the work and become experts at making finding personal for shoppers and workers at the world's largest organizations, our customers, our new customers, can begin using the Fusion platform without diverting time, attention, and money away from their core business so that they can build or maintain their business rather than caring for platforms and applications in-house. So what we say is focus on your business, your customers, and your employees instead. Now, to abstract it a little bit, I showed the spaghetti chart on the line throughout the platform to intelligently ingest, explore, and curate the data. When you ingest data, Fusion uses AI to prepare documents, data, records, files for discovery. It clusters those records and classifies, organizes content, and identifies entities within the content using natural language processing. So it's looking at the data that comes in and identifying people, places, products, or some other entity that you might be interested in. Then once a user interacts with the system, Fusion invokes AI again to predict the user's intent. Then we can match that intent with the most relevant content and personalize search results, browsing options, or make proactive recommendations that are on point with what the system believes the user might need at that particular moment. Fusion Application Studio allows teams to quickly create new personalized applications that constantly tune themselves to offer the next best experience. And all of this can either be deployed on premises or it can be self-hosted on public cloud services or managed entirely by Lucidworks in a cloud platform as a service. So there's lots of flexibility in how our customers can deploy Fusion. So just to drill in a little bit more on the platform and the functionality, it features a cloud-native microservices architecture orchestrated by Kubernetes. And this lets our customers add new cloud-based apps more quickly and easily. Typically they don't need to buy a new system. The platform's up and running. Their experience using it and adding additional apps on top of the platform is actually pretty cut and dry and pretty fast at that point. So customers who want to run Fusion in their data center can manage it with cloud-like agility because of that cloud-based, cloud-native Kubernetes architecture. They just need to have Kubernetes in their data center, or they can connect with partners like Platform 9 who offer Kubernetes as a service. Going down the slide here, Fusion autoscaling policies let customers expand capacity dynamically as new apps are introduced or as system activity grows organically over time. So if a new app starts consuming too much CPU, Kubernetes will add nodes and auto-balance the cluster automatically. Of course, we're talking about machine learning, so the Fusion ML microservice natively supports Python machine learning models, allowing data scientists to utilize existing models with Fusion's index and query pipelines. I know I'm getting into the technical end of things here a little bit, but I'm sure some folks on the call might be interested in understanding a little bit what's under the hood and how it works. And the most popular data science toolkits for the data scientists out there, they integrate natively with Fusion. So data scientists can use TensorFlow, scikit-learn, Spacy, or Jupyter Notebooks, the tools that they're already used to using, to build models that use behavioral signals from millions of user search queries, navigation choices, or page views. And finally, Fusion also includes Spark streaming for signals ingest and near real-time aggregation of search activity. I'll show a demo of Fusion in a couple minutes, but that'll give you a sense of some of the key features. Now, I alluded to the fact that we are building applications, and our customers can build applications that plug into Fusion and run natively on Fusion, but we've taken that step for some of our most common use cases. And the first one is our Predictive Merchandiser add-on, which personalizes commerce. And while Lucidworks Fusion powers search and discovery on the websites of the world's largest apparel, home improvement, and consumer electronic retailers, we were successful at doing that, and the merchandising teams in those organizations said, hey, we want to have a little more control over this. We want to understand how we can curate the machine learning to provide the type of experience and the next best experience that we want our shoppers to have. And because we learned a lot about how to hyper-personalize the shopping experience in our work with Fusion, we've used that experience to create a pre-configured add-on application to Fusion called Predictive Merchandiser. And it helps merchandisers avoid null results, decrease bounce rates, improve conversions by ensuring that the right products are displayed to shoppers as they search and browse product pages. I'll also give a glimpse of this interface in the demo that we're going to show in a couple minutes. It also includes product relevancy scoring. So when people search, they need to find the product that is most appropriate to their intent and the moment in that shopping experience. And so that relevancy scoring interprets signals and gives visual insight into relative product preferences, showing why an individual product is the most relevant for a search result or a category page. We also provide dashboard analytics that give real-time insight into search and browse outcomes with the ability to change the view for a specific time period. This is super helpful for merchandisers that are aware of some seismic shift in the market, maybe taste changes or competitor moves, and they need to understand how those external effects are affecting the work they're doing and how to adjust to it. A couple other things that are included here, of course, are automatic search rewrites. We use head-tail analysis to predict intent, automatically fix misspellings in typed searches, interpret synonyms, or recommend related products. And then most managers or most merchandisers are used to some rules-based approach. And AI can do a lot. It can offload a lot of the care and maintenance of these rule-based approaches, but not everything. So we also have a rules manager that lets merchandisers apply rules to pin, boost, bury, or block specific products for a search term or category page. And because Fusion's machine learning dramatically reduces the need for merchandisers to maintain all those static search rules, they're free to focus on the rules that matter most and free to shape the taste of their experience that they're offering to their shoppers. And then one last product thing that I'll mention before we get into to showing a demo. Earlier this year, we released Smart Answers, and this is an advanced deep learning framework that powers chatbot and question answering systems. Again, it runs on top of Fusion, so you can start with a search experience on your site, and then many commerce companies and many workplaces offer these question answering systems, chatbots, virtual assistants. And really, when you think about the questions that are typed into a chatbot, it's just another form of search. And so Smart Answers gives the end users, and either employees or customers, immediate contextual answers to their natural language questions. This is you mentioned COVID-19, Brandon, and this is a really useful tool for our customers right now because there's a lot of employee support use cases, people working from home for the first time. They need to connect from home differently than they did at work. And our customers are turning to Smart Answers to improve self-service and call deflection that are really, all these calls are flowing into their IT help desk or their HR desk. And this is a great way to deflect some of those calls and provide better service to employees. Of course, we've been talking about customer-facing interfaces, and so for customer contact centers, this is very useful as well. It deflects calls by giving customers a more intuitive, intelligent way to answer their own questions, and agents can also use it to answer customer support questions that do come through. So to sum up, before we go to the demo, Lucidworks Smart Answers is an excellent replacement for older rules-based, knowledge-based systems because it learns based on the signals sent from every question asked and every answer delivered. And you can start using it cold, even if you haven't had a chance to train it on your own data, because it comes pre-trained on public sources like Wikipedia. Then it learns about your specific domain and the unique questions that your users ask. So Fusion's the platform. We have a Predictive Merchandiser add-on, a Smart Answers add-on as ways to extend that intent prediction capabilities to different ways of asking and answering questions. So with that, I'm going to move to a demo. You'll recognize the voice. This is pre-recorded. It's me giving a demo, but we wanted to record it just to avoid any technical glitches we might have. So Naomi, if you if you have some time to run the demo, let's do that. And in the meantime, as you're watching, remember to type in questions in the Q&A, and we'll make sure to have time to answer them at the end. Here's a quick look into how Fusion personalizes digital commerce experiences. The demo uses actual product data from one of our customers, an outdoor apparel retailer named Cool.com. I'm going to show how Fusion can help me find my son the ideal birthday present that matches his interest in hiking and fly fishing. His birthday is July 1st, and he wears mostly shorts. I've already done some searching and browsing for his birthday present, so the home page is showing me personalized banners for lifestyle content related to fly fishing. Lucidworks Fusion has captured signals from all previous Cool shoppers, and it uses those accumulated signals to help me find the right product. I begin to type in shorts, and I'm only 3 letters into my query SHO before Fusion Machine Learning begins to guide my product discovery experience. Fusion suggests relevant spellings, suggestions, and prior queries in search history. All of these suggestions are based on rules or NLP recommendations. I click on the suggestion shorts. You can see from these results that the Cool website cannot personalize to me very well yet. It is showing a variety of products in different colors and some styles for women. In an earlier rules-driven time, facets helped e-commerce shoppers communicate more precise intent in a structured way. Fusion offers that too, but machine learning does the heavy lifting that saves the shopper from spending too much time with facets. Instead, I'm going to run a more explicit search and show you how Fusion uses that information to give the shopper both query input flexibility and personalization. I search for men's blue shorts. Now my facet choices have become more precise because Fusion used NLP to predict my intent. Department and gender facets default to men, and the color facet defaults to blue. The search results have been personalized using the ML concept of named entity recognition, or NER. Fusion has learned through thousands or millions of signals that men's is a gender, blue is a color, and shorts is a product category. When I expand the search results enhanced by Fusion ML, I can see the factors that determine relevance for that particular query. When I expand Fusion ML suggestions, I can see that ML is effectively asking me 2 questions and then making items for item recommendations based on how I answer. My son prefers styles more appropriate for fishing and hiking, so I choose those facets. Now watch how Fusion maintains personalization as my product discovery continues. When I search for shirts, I'm jumping to a different product category, but Fusion remembers my preferences. Cool shows me blue men's shirts appropriate for fishing and hiking. Now I'm going to search for shorts again. Compare the results of this search for shorts to the one I did just minutes ago. The results are far more personal. These riptide shorts look good. I click on them and go to the product detail page. In just a few minutes, Fusion has learned about my preferences and can make personalized recommendations, but not because a merchandiser has hard-coded a rule. Notice that the products featured in the item recommendations section of the page apply generally to my preferences based on the signals I've sent. But here we're seeing an example of unsupervised machine learning based on a black box calculation. These are products most likely for me to add to my cart when I'm on the Riptide Shorts product detail page. That's why these products aren't always blue and aren't always shorts. Just below that, I can see item recommendations with blue color boost. These are much more explicitly tied to the preferences that I've just shown. Here at the bottom of the page, you see the query history and click history metrics. Both of these components help Cool evaluate and tune relevance, giving their team the ability to assess the precision and recall of results and adjust configuration to optimize. Because Fusion can incorporate geolocation signals as well, we could boost products that are most relevant to a shopper's exact location. For example, if Cool can see where shoppers for Riptide Shorts tend to live, they can use that information to inform their supply chain or in-store promotions to move more product and to prevent stockouts. Now I search for white shorts. And it so happens that Cool does not sell white shorts. This is another way to use items for item recommendations. Since Fusion understands that white is a color and shorts is a product category, it can suggest different color category combinations as alternatives to white shorts. Eventually, Fusion will learn what products shoppers consider to be popular substitutes for white shorts. Cool offers a line of shorts named Revolver, spelled R-E-V-O-L-V-R. When I search for Revolver with the correct English spelling, Fusion knows what I'm looking for. The site doesn't show me null results, nor does it ask me to retype anything. This is based on a pattern noticed by the ML and subsequently converted into a rule by the merchandiser. I'll show how this works when I show you the backend interface. Fusion also detects synonyms using the same head-tail approach that it uses for misspellings. If I search for luggage, the closest items available in the catalog are bags. Fusion automatically replaces luggage with bags before it runs the query. Here's the synonym detection rule. I've shown many examples of how Fusion uses machine learning to evaluate and tune relevance by building a knowledge graph and using that graph to understand queries and predict intent. This automatic approach is usually better than relying on static if-then rules. It scales far better and is more flexible as words and language patterns change. It also saves merchandising teams lots of time and the boredom of maintaining the relevance of their website search results. But a strictly automatic approach is not always best. Sometimes rules engines should override what ML might prescribe. This is particularly true at the long end of the tail, where ML may not get enough signals to make the best recommendations. Moments in time that require a quick human response, such as a competitor's announcement, when the ML models do not have time to train themselves. With these shopper examples, I've shown how Lucidworks Fusion personalized an e-commerce experience. In September 2019, we released Predictive Merchandiser, an add-on to Fusion that makes it far, far easier for teams managing e-commerce websites to predict shopper intent and match that intent with products and content. Here's the Predictive Merchandiser. I'll show how the cool merchandising team can use this low-code interface to complete 4 tasks: boost product, block product, bury product, or pin product. I'll also show how the rules engine works. All of this is proof of Predictive Merchandiser's ease of use for the business experts who can manage the system and shape how the cognitive search behaves on the front end by using an intuitive drag-and-drop interface on the back end. I'll run the same shorts query that I ran as a shopper. I see the same named entity recognition working here. Fusion has identified shorts as a product type. This is an example of data enrichment. The product type entity is extracted from the query string, and that object becomes useful in the knowledge graph. Here's how easy it is to boost the Revolver Shorts product. I get immediate visual confirmation. Revolver Shorts will appear in the first position. I'd like to block the Vortex short because we're running low on inventory. They disappear immediately. I'll pin the Contra short in the second position. And I want to bury the Riptide short. It looks like it disappeared from the results, but it's buried on the 4th page of results. Here it is. I can see all the rules that I've just created through the UI, but I haven't published any of them yet. These rules won't affect the site behavior until I click Publish. I'll click Undo All so I don't mess up anyone else's demo. Everything goes back to how it was before. So that was a quick demo, and we were focusing on the digital commerce side. Now, Brandon, help us connect the dots. Tell us more about the next best experience and the advice that you give to companies who want to offer those.
Sure thing, Justin, and thank you for that cool demo, pun intended. I can't help myself. But what I really liked about the demo was you talked about multiple different analytical techniques that Fusion is using to personalize those experiences. First, you mentioned NLP. You talked about some unsupervised learning, and of course, there was some supervised learning in there as well. And that's really what the next best experience paradigm is about, the fact that you're probably using many different analytical techniques, and you want to combine them to identify what that right experience should be for that customer in the moment. And I realize it could still seem a bit theoretical, so I just want to share with you a retail banking example that could just as easily be applied to commerce or other areas. So this retail bank, let's say they're very analytically advanced, and as you can see here, they are doing all of the different kind of analytical techniques that I talked about before, those customer analytics techniques. They're also identifying what journeys customers are on and tracking those journeys. And so they see a customer who signed into her online banking session, so they know who she is, and she looks for she looks up how to close her account. They're doing churn modeling, and so immediately her churn score goes up 20%. Well, she also looks at a product. Let's say she looks at an auto loan. Well, they're doing product propensity modeling, so her propensity to need an auto loan goes up 20%. Shortly thereafter, she transfers money to her mom, and something happens and the transfer does not go through. So now there's a good chance she needs some sort of customer service. What do? You have three very salient insights about this customer. Which one do you act upon? Right now, most businesses probably act upon all of them. You know, as soon as the retention team notices that there's an issue, they'll act on it. The service team will act on it. And you end up with this incoherent customer experience. What you should be doing, and what the next best experience says, is look at customers who've been at a similar crossroads in their journey before and see which intervention yielded the highest lift in the customer's average lifetime value. Here, for example, you may find, sure, selling her an auto loan will increase her lifetime value. Retaining her as a customer will also increase her lifetime value, but the greatest increase in lifetime value will actually come from fixing that wire transfer to her mom because she really needed that money to get there. And that will engender the type of loyalty that will encourage her to become a long-time customer and increase her footprint and wallet share with you. So customer lifetime value becomes the currency that you can use to arbitrate between these candidate experiences to find the true next best experience. So you may be asking, is anyone doing this yet? Well, I mentioned before, this is aspirational. So it's something that companies are building towards. In my research, I found that a number of banks and financial services companies are pretty close. Charles Schwab is one I spoke to who has a next best conversation model, so that when someone calls into Charles Schwab, they know who that customer is because of the phone number, and the call service representative actually sees a list of 3 recommended conversations to have with that customer. The recommendations are coming from product propensity models for marketing, so cross-sell and upsell opportunities, but also from service propensity models for customer service. And so that call center agent sees those 3 recommendations, selects the one that they think is most appropriate. And the thing I really like about this is that they then can provide feedback to the system and say, yes, this was the correct recommendation, or this was the wrong conversation to have. So it's continuously optimizing. And the other thing I really like about it is it represents a collaboration between their centralized analytics and insights team, the marketing team, and the customer service team, all of which have their own kind of key metrics that they judge themselves on, but they all got on board to look at Net Promoter Score as kind of the overarching metric for the success of this endeavor. So this is a financial services example, but I think, Justin, given all the experience that you guys have in commerce, maybe you have a commerce example to share.
Yeah, Brandon, this is a great example, and the one thing that we talk about commerce and workplace as a simplifying way to talk about this, but when you think about it, even the example I just showed with Cool, and that is an existing customer of ours that sells outdoor apparel online. I showed the customer experience and the workplace experience. So if you think about it, all of these next best experience interactions do involve a human being that's a consumer and a human being that's in a support or back office role. And so when you were mentioning the Schwab example, I was thinking about one of our big capital markets customers, and they've used that predictive capability and that high-speed search capability in Fusion for their wealth managers to advise high net worth individuals on investment strategies. So before Fusion, I might have a conversation with you, Brandon, and say, okay, I'm understanding your strategies and where you want the level of risk you're willing to take. Let me call you back on Friday and I'll have some recommendations for you. This company now is actually listening to those conversations, having those conversations, and in real time, they're running searches in Fusion that incorporate the investment history of that particular individual, any new market research that might have come up, other trends in the market. And rather than say, I'll call you back in 2 days and have my recommendation for you, they're making those recommendations in real time. And so that's a huge improvement to the pace with which they're able to operate their business. And I'll tell you that the customers, the people they're serving, are much happier with that because it makes good use of their time and also gets them better results, better investment results, frankly.
Great. That's an excellent example. Thanks, Justin. So I have a feeling that attendees at this point are thinking, okay, we'd love to be like that bank, or we'd love to be like Charles Schwab. How do we get started with this? Well, the right approach to this in analytics and AI in general is to start with a business objective. Don't start by saying we need to do better segmentation. Hopefully by now you realize that in the world, in the age of the customer, in the world of AI, it's time to move towards personalization. But even that isn't your objective. What you do based on data. Data is the key enabler of all of this, but also the key limiter. So it's important to take a thorough inventory of your data and understand what sources you have access to. Then you can start to choose, okay, what makes sense from an analytical modeling or AI perspective? What techniques, what technologies do we need to invest in, given the data we have and the priorities that we have from a business perspective? At the same time, it's very important to think about what action is going to look like. In the demo, the Cool demo, Justin showed very clearly how the experience actually changes based upon the insights that were being gleaned from the customer as they navigated across that digital experience. That type of orchestration of action can actually be quite difficult. That may not be set up to actually inform the experience with insights in near real time. So as you're building out your AI models, as you're deploying analytics and artificial intelligence, gather with your stakeholders and also start to architect what action will look like. So thank you all for joining, and we'd love to dive into questions. I hope some of you have been adding questions as we go along. I'll turn it over to Justin now for some final thoughts, and then we can take your questions.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Justin Sears. And then just a full disclosure, that was just a replay of the webinar that Brandon and I ran in August, and it was so well received that we wanted to replay it again in case folks missed that. But this is live Justin Sears, and I've been asking folks to send questions into the Q&A box, and we've gotten some great ones. So let me start with the first question that I'd like to take from one of the participants. And the question was, can developers customize or modify some of the ML rules? And I love this question because Fusion, our platform, offers both rules-based and ML approaches to personalizing experiences. So you saw some of this in the Cool demo, but the same relationship or process applies to a variety of different use cases. So You could use this for healthcare claims corrections. You could use this for pharmaceutical drug research. In fact, our customer Regeneron, who's been in the news lately, uses us for that purpose. Or as we mentioned a couple of times on the webinar, investment advisory services for capital markets company. Now, how do we do this? Because Fusion is built on open source standards, Apache Solr and Apache Spark, and we also follow an API first approach to our development, we've intentionally made it quite easy for developers to build custom applications on top of Fusion. And so what this means is your developers or data scientists can easily bring their own models and snap them on to the rich stream of signals that flow from Fusion users. So things like Python, scikit-learn, the go-to tools that people build models on, we've made it very intentionally easy for those to apply on Fusion. So great question. And then another question I got, I think flows from that pretty well. And the question that came in was, we've had some false starts with AI. It hasn't taken hold so far. What is the secret to using AI across our company? And what has worked in other companies that have made AI operational? And this is related to the last question because what we see is a lot of companies try to use a project-based approach to AI adoption, and what we really recommend instead is a product-based approach to AI adoption. So let me explain what those two things mean. The typical project-based approach, which has failed a lot of companies, is you look at business objectives you might want to accomplish with AI or ML, and the business says, we want to do this. And they hand that over to the data scientists that build models to do that thing that the business wants done. And unfortunately, there's a risk there of misunderstanding and miscommunication. And so what happens quite a bit is that the modelers will go away with the business objective. They come back with something, show it to the business, and the business says, oh, sorry, that's not really what we meant, or it needs to be a little bit different than that. And there's this cycle of kind of trial and error that goes on there. And even if those two teams work through that process of trial and error and they come up with models, then there's a third hurdle there, which is they could bring it to the DevOps team or the IT team and say, okay, we want these models. And the IT team looks at the business and at the data scientist and say, you're crazy. There's no way that we can make this work within our existing technical infrastructure with the resources that we have. And so the reason that a lot of AI adoption initiatives fall flat is because of this kind of cross-functional misinterpretation or misunderstanding. And so that's why we say the best way to make AI work or ML work in your organization, to really make that operational, is a product-based approach. And of course, when we say that, we have our product in mind, Fusion. Fusion is built on top of, as I mentioned, these open source standards, particularly Apache Spark for making ML work with really large streams of data. And because we've already done this with hundreds of organizations that are solving, just kind of use cases that recur quite frequently. So take e-commerce product discovery, or take enterprise search within a company for knowledge management, or take contact center customer service. We've seen those use cases, each of those use cases, many hundreds of times, and so our product already does those things out of the box pretty well. We can pre-train models to solve that cold start problem, and then what you get, if you're using Fusion, is you get a platform that is already solving the first use case, the use cases that you've seen before, finding products and putting them in your cart if you're an e-commerce company. And then you can extend from there with those three teams. That first successful win, they can say, okay, we've gotten product discovery down and we didn't lose our jobs, and now we're all working on a platform that we know works. What can we do next with it? Why don't we extend it a little bit and add a customer support use case? And so we've seen our customers really be very successful with that land and expand strategy. Take the thing that everybody needs to do first and get that working, make money with that, and then extend into the next one. All right. So, and I see one more question also related to this thread. So let me take that, and I think we'll be at the hour. This question was, we don't have as many data scientists as Google or Amazon. How can we compete with those huge players to personalize with our handful of data scientists? And this is another, I guess, another spin on the story I've been sharing. The advantages that companies have that are not the behemoths, the Googles, the Amazons, I'd even throw Microsoft in there, or some of those other big players that have literally hundreds or thousands of data scientists, is if you're if you're a slightly smaller organization than those, you still know your brand, you know your customers, and you own your own data. The challenge that Amazon or Google has is they're trying to do all things for all people. So they might have opportunities to specialize or personalize in specific instances, but they always have to keep in mind every possible product and every possible consumer. If you're a company such as Lenovo, a customer of ours, you know your customers very well, you know your products very well, you know your brand very well, and you can still use that same flow of signals and the tools that we highlighted on today's webinar to do your thing right. And because you own your own data, that is a compounding, ever-growing opportunity for you. You can continue to personalize better and better and better because you have the signals, you have the machine learning tools, and you have the framework to continue to personalize better for the customers that you serve. So with that, I'll take a deep breath and thank everybody for joining this webinar and encourage you to keep your eyes on our blog for invitations to upcoming webinars. We're always doing these, usually 1 or 2 a week, and so we look forward to seeing you back again on another one in the future. Thank you very much.